So hello everyone, my name is Shubhi and today I'll be solving the JNVST Mental Ability 2020 paper of class 6. So let's start with the first question. The directions given are, in question numbers 1 to 4, 4 figures A, B, C and D have been given in each question. Of these 4 figures, 3 figures are similar in some way and 1 figure is different. Select the figure which is different. Darken the circle for answer in the OMR answer sheet against the number corresponding to the question. So such questions are given the name odd man out, where the figure which is different is called the odd man out figure. So let's see this with an example. So in question number 1, we can see key in each of the figures there is a smaller square inside of a larger square in all of the figures A, B, C and D. Now we can see that there is also two diagonals pointing in this direction, and there are two diagonals pointing in this direction. There was a mistake in the paper, and this line was supposed to be in this direction. So basically, these two A and B point in this direction, and C and D point in this direction. So that's why this is not our point of difference, because over here one figure is not odd. Two figures are pointing in this direction and two figures have diagonal pointing in this direction. So what is the thing that is singling the odd one out? So over here there is a line, and in B, C and D, this line is on the side of the smaller square. But in A, this line is on the diagonal of the smaller square. So that's why A is the odd man out. Now let's look at question number 2. Here we can see that there are words written in squares in each of the figures. Now in A, B and C, the words written are comprised of the letters K, I and T. Let's see, K, I, T, then here K, I, T, then K, I, T. But in question number D, instead of T, we have C. Whereas in all the others, we are using K, I, T. Here we are using K, I and C. So that's why, since C is not used anywhere else, D is the odd man out. D is the one which is different. Now let's see question number 3. Here we have, in all the figures we have triangles, but A, C and D have right angle triangles. Right angle triangles means that this kind of an angle is given which is equal to a 90-degree angle. However, question number B, which is the odd man out, has an acute angle triangle. So that's why B is the odd man out, B is an answer. So now let's look at the fourth question. Here in A, B and C, we can see that there is a smaller circle inside of the bigger circle. Small circle inside bigger circle, small circle inside bigger circle. But in D, the small circle is outside of the bigger circle. So that's why D is our correct answer. Now let's look at question number 5. The directions given are, in question numbers 5 to 8, a question figure is given on the left side and 4 answer figures marked A, B, C and D are given on the right side. Select the answer figure which is exactly the same as the question figure, and darken the circle in the OMR answer sheet against the number corresponding to the question. So here we are told that this is the question figure on the left and these are the answer figures, and we have to figure out which of these answer figures is the exact same, is the exact ditto of this question figure. So let's look at question number 5. Here we can see that there is a circle and there are sectors inside the circle. Basically there are these shaded regions. So let's call this area shaded area 1, shaded area 2 and shaded area 3. So we can see between shaded area 1 and 2, there is one non-shaded area, one white area. Between shaded area 2 and 3, there are two white areas, and between 3 and 1, there are again two white areas. Now let's look at A. A has 1, 2, 3 white areas, then one white area, then one white area. B has 1, 2 and 2. One white area, two white areas, two white areas. C has 1, 1 and then 3. 1, 1 and 3. And then D has 1, 1, 2, 3 and 1. So 1, 3, 1. So that's why our answer is B, because B has 1, 2 and 2 gaps, exactly like the question figure. So the answer for 5th is B. Now let's look at the 6th question. So here also we have to see which figure is the exact same among A, B, C, D as this figure. As this figure. So over here we can see that there are two circles at the top. So here there are not two circles at the top. In B there are two circles at the top. In question C also there are not two circles at the top. In question D also there are not two circles at the top. So that's why answer is B. Now let's look over here. Here we can see that there are arrows which are pointing outside of the square, not inside, not towards the center of the square, but outside of the square. So in A, there is one arrow which is pointing inside. In B also one arrow pointing inside. In D also two arrows pointing inside. But in C also all the arrows are pointing outside, just like the answer figure, just like the question figure. So that's why answer C is the correct option. Now let's look at the 8th question. Here also we can see that there is a pentagon, and we can see that almost all of its diagonals are marked except the diagonal connecting here. So if you have difficulty in similarity questions, then I would say that you can just try to recreate this question, try to see which are similar. So let's see. We can see that this line exists over here, exists over here, exists over here, and exists over here. Then let us look for this line. This line exists here. This line also exists here. There is no such line in C option. There is such a line in D option. Then let's look at here. Now we can see that between A and B, there is no line in the question figure. So there should be no line in the in A, but there is a line. So A is not our answer. There should be no line in D also, but there is a line, so D is also not our answer. So the correct option is B, because B does not have a line joining these two. So that's why the question figure and B are the most similar. Now let's look at question number 9. Let's read the directions. In question numbers 9 to 12, there is a question figure on the left side, a part of which is missing. Observe the answer figures A, B, C and D on the right side and find out the answer figure which, without changing the direction, fits in the missing part of the question figure in order to complete the pattern in the question figure. Indicate your answer by darkening the circle in the OMR answer sheet against the number corresponding to the question. So let's look at the question figure and then the answer figures. So here basically we can see that there is this style, right, which does not have the design. So what we have to do is we need to fill the style with the design that would make this entire design complete. Okay, so now let's look at so here a short trick to do is that or perhaps a way to make the question simpler is that you can first just make the design over here itself, and then you can compare key which of these which of the answers A, B, C and D are like the design. So over here, if I had to complete this design, then what I would do is I would draw two diagonals like the rest of them, and then since in all of them, see, the arrows point outside, they don't point towards the center, right? They point outside. So here also the arrow should point outside. So that's why this is what our answer figure should look like. So over here in A, there is one that is pointing inside. In B, all of them are pointing outside. So B is our answer. Now let's look at the 10th question. Here also let's try to complete the design in the question figure itself. So over here, to complete the square, first I will do this. Then we can see that the dots are on the inside and these curves are on the outside, and there is also a right angle triangle. So first we have to make sure the dots are on the inside. So over here, here the dots are on the outside. Here also outside. Here the dots are on the inside, and in D also the dots are on the inside. Then we have to make sure that the curves are on the inside. Basically we have to make sure that this is the correct C and D should have this exact figure. So over here also the curves are inside, here also curves are inside. Then we also have to make sure that the right angle is there. So C does not have the right angle, but D has the right angle. So that's why the correct answer is D. Now let's look at the 11th question. So here also, to complete the design, what I can do is I can shade this region. So now this tile also looks like the rest of the square, right? So basically, which of these tiles can replace this tile over here? We see that D is most like this tile, because D also has two curves and it also has shading between the two curves. Now let's look at the 12th question. Here also, to complete the design, what we will do is we have to make a figure like this. There should be a line between the figure and the outside of the figure should be shaded. So over here also we can see that both A and B have a pattern similar, but in the answer our figure should point in this direction, should point in this direction, right? Right. So that's why A is the correct answer, because in B the arrow is pointing in this direction. Now let's look at the 13th question. The directions for the 13 to 16 questions are: there are 3 question figures on the left side and the space for the 4th figure is left blank. The question figures are in a series. Find out one figure from among the answer figures given on the right side which occupies the blank space for the 4th figure on the left side and completes the series. Indicate your answer by darkening the circle in the OMR answer sheet against the number corresponding to the question. So we can see the question figures here. So basically they are saying that these question figures are in a series. What does series mean? These question figures have a pattern. Basically the third tile we can get by looking at the second tile, and the second tile we are getting by looking at the first tile. Okay, so here what we can see is, let's look at question number 13. Here we can see there is a circle, then a circle and a cross, then a circle and a cross and a circle. So after this, what tile should follow? A circle, then a cross, then a circle and a cross, right? So the correct answer is C. Let's look at option number 14. Here we can see that first this figure has a curve which is pointing upwards, then it is pointing downwards, then it is pointing upwards again. So now it should point downwards again, right? To complete the pattern. And also we can see that the number of crosses are also increasing. So here there is 1 cross, here there are 2 crosses, 3 crosses. So our final answer should have 4 crosses. So what do we know? The curve should point downwards and it should have 4 crosses. So this is most like option number C. So that's why C is our correct answer. Now let's look over here. Here we can see that the first the arrow is pointing in the left direction, then down direction, then right direction. So now it should point in the up direction. And we can see that basically this figure has been rotated by 90 degrees. So first this figure looked like a Z, then it gets rotated by 90 degrees. So now it will look like an N. If you see from this side, then it will look like an N, right? Which is our second figure. Then we again rotate it in this direction only. So in this direction, as in this direction. So now we can see that it becomes a Z again. And then again we rotate. So now it should become an N again. So that's why the answer should be N. And since over here we saw that the first one had arrow pointing left, then arrow pointing down, then arrow pointing right. So now last arrow should point upwards. So that's why B is the correct answer. Now let's look at the 16th question. This is a bit of a difficult question. Now here we can see that first the arrow is in this place and is pointing in this direction. Then the arrow goes down. From here the arrow goes to this position and now it's pointing in this direction. Then the arrow goes to this position and now it is pointing in this direction. Then the arrow goes upwards and now it should point in the upward direction, right? So let's see, options A does not have arrow pointing in upward direction, but options B, C, D have arrow pointing in upward direction. Now we should see that over here the triangle is in this position and points upwards. Then the triangle goes from here to here and points to the right. Then it goes down and comes here and points downwards. So now it should go this direction and should point this way, right? So let's map the journey of the triangle. So first triangle was over here. Let's see here. First number 1 position of triangle is over here. Then triangle comes here. Then triangle comes here. Then triangle comes here. And so finally triangle should come here, right? First it points in this direction. Then it points in this direction. Then it points downwards. So now it should point leftwards. So the triangle should point leftwards. So we can see that in B and in C the triangle points leftwards. So now let's look at the rectangle. Now first the rectangle is horizontal. Then it goes to this position and then it is vertical. Then it goes to this position and then it is horizontal again. So now finally it should go to this position and it should be vertical. Sorry, not horizontal. It should be vertical. So final answer should have a vertical rectangle in this position. So the correct answer is option B. Now let's look at the question 17. So the directions given are, in question number 17 to 20, there are 2 sets of 2 question figures each. The second set has an interrogation mark. There exists a relationship between the first 2 question figures. Similar relationships should exist between the third and fourth question figure. Select one of the answer figures which replaces the mark of interrogation. Darken the circle in the OMR answer sheet against the number corresponding to the question. So let's see here. So basically they are saying there is a relationship between these two and the same relationship should be there between these two. okay, between whatever we're going to put in place of the question mark and this figure. So let's see. First there was a square here, and then we mark the diagonals of the square. So now there is a pentagon here. So now we should mark the diagonals of the pentagon. So we can see that A has all the diagonals of the pentagon. Diagonals means that every corner should be connected to every other corner. So over here, this corner, say for example, should be connected to this corner, should be connected to this corner, should be connected to this corner and this corner. We can see that in C, this corner is not able to be connected to this corner. So that's why C does not have all the diagonals. And we can see that in B also, you might think that since we have drawn two lines over here, so maybe the answer figure should also have two lines. But that is not true. We have actually drawn two diagonals over here, like basically all the diagonals of the square. So we should draw all the diagonals of the pentagon. So that's why the answer is answer A. Now let's look at the 18th question. Now here we can see that in the first figure, the curve is pointing downwards, then the curve points upwards. So now this box over here is opening downwards. So now in the question mark wala figure, the box should open upwards. So which one of these has the box opening upwards? Here. And why didn't we pick this B option? Because over here the curve which is above the midpoint is still above the midline, and so over here the box which is above the midline should stay above the midline. So that's why the correct answer is answer C. So now let's look at the 19th question. Here first there was a triangle and it was outside of the shape, then the triangle went inside of the shape. So now since there is a circle that is outside of the square, then in a question mark the circle should get inside of the square. So that's why the correct answer is answer number B. Now let's look at the 20th question. Here we can see that there is a square and it has crosses in it, and then in the next figure there is a square and it has crosses in the adjacent squares too. Adjacent as in the neighboring squares too, in the squares that are touching this square. So now since there is a square here which has lines in it, now according to this relation the neighbors also got the crosses. So here the neighbors should also get the lines. So the neighbors of the square are this square and this square. So that's why both of these squares should also get the lines. So that's why the correct answer is option number C. Now let's look at the question number 21. In question numbers 21 to 24, one part of a geometrical figure, triangle, circle, square, is on the left side as question figure, and the other one is among the four answer figures A, B, C and D on the right side. Find the figure on the right side that completes the geometrical figure and darken the circle in the OMR answer sheet against the number corresponding to the question. So basically here we can see that this is one half of the triangle, and basically we have to complete the triangle, or complete the rectangle, or complete the square, or complete the circle. So how can we do this question easier? What we can do is, in the question figure itself we can make the triangle or square or rectangle. So let's see how we can do that. So over here this completes our triangle, right? So basically we will need a figure which looks like this. Correct? So over here question number over here A does not look like this because A does not have a beak or a notch like this. Now over here also B has a point pointing inwards, but we can see that according to the figure that we ourselves have drawn over here to complete the triangle, we can see that this should point outwards, this point should point outwards, and then this should again point outwards in the same direction. So we can see that D has the point pointing outwards, and then also this curve in the same direction. So that's why D is our answer. Now let's look at this question. Here we can see that there is a incomplete circle. So first again let's do our trick. Let's complete the circle. Then we have to figure out whether it is option number B or C. Okay. Now over here we can see whether it is option number A or B. So over here what we can do is we can extend this line. We'll extend this line. So we can see it divides into 3 parts, right? And we can also see that the rest of the figure has a little bit of shading over here. So we should also add some shading over here. So that means to complete the figure, we need 3 more such sectors and it should have shading like B. So that's why the correct answer is option number B. Now let's look at the 23rd question. Here we have an incomplete square. So first let's complete the square. So we can see that to complete the square, we will need some figure like this. Correct? So a figure like this, B is a figure like this because B also has these points pointing upwards. So now we have to, we can see in question number 24 also there is an incomplete square. So let's complete it. So we can see that to complete the square, we would need a triangle that look like this. So we can see that the triangle that looks like this is option number D, is option number C. So C is the correct answer. So now let's look at question number 25. The directions say in question numbers 25 to 28, there is a question figure on the left side and 4 answer figures marked A, B, C and D are given on the right side. Select the answer figure which is exactly the mirror image of the question figure when the mirror is held at XY. Indicate your answer by darkening the circle in the OMR answer sheet against the number corresponding to the question. So basically what they are saying is this line that you can see, this line with the other smaller lines pointing behind it, this line with X and Y labeled is the mirror. And basically we have to find the mirror image of this line and we have to mark which of A, B and C, D are the correct mirror image of this question mark. So we take this line as our mirror and now let's try to make the mirror image here only. So the rules of making a mirror image are whatever is on the top or on the bottom will stay the same. So whatever is on the top will stay on the top only. Whatever is on the bottom will stay on the bottom only. Also, whatever is nearer to the mirror, so nearer to line XY over here will stay near only, and whatever is farther will stay far only. Farther will stay far only. So over here, let's see. First of all, let's divide it into 2 halves. Now we can see whatever is up should stay up only, right? So this circle is up, so this circle should stay up only. This circle shouldn't magically come down here or here somewhere. So let's see our options. We can see that in option number D, this circle has come down. So that means D is not the correct mirror image. Now again we have to see that the objects which are nearer to the mirror should stay nearer to the mirror in the mirror image also. So over here, let's try to draw the mirror image of say the circle. So the distance of the circle over here is this much, right? From XY. So in the mirror image also it should be this much only. So that means our circle should be over here. Then we will see. Then let us see this line. This arrow. Sorry. This arrow, which is not shaded, is at this much distance. So that means that this arrow over here should also be at this much distance. Also, this point is at a farther distance than this point, right? So that means this point should again be at a farther distance only than this point. I am talking about this 1 and 2. Basically, the arrow looks like this, right? So if this is a mirror, then this point number 1 and point number 2. So point number 1 is farther away than point number 2. So in the mirror image also, the point number 1 should stay at the same distance. Point number 2 should also stay at the same distance. So the final image will look something like this instead of this. So we can see our left has become right, our right has become left basically. So over here, we will say ki the final arrow should look like this, and the arrow will be connected to this circle that we had already determined will be at this much distance, and then the other 2 arrows will look like this. The other arrow and over here, yes. And we have to notice that this circle is not shaded and this circle is shaded. Okay, so the final image should look something like this. We can see that option number A has the shaded arrow over here, unshaded circle here, and shaded circle here, and then unshaded over here. So that's why the correct answer is option number A. Now let's look at the 26th question. Before the 26th question, let's look at the 28th question. So over here again we can see that whatever is above this midline should stay above only. So this minus shouldn't magically come down. So in our answer figure also we have to make sure that the minus isn't down. So over here in A, minus has come down, which it shouldn't happen. Mirror does not change top and bottom, right? It only changes left to right and right to left, right? So over here it has come down. So A is not our answer, B is not our answer. Both C and D have minus up only. Then we have to see that over here the distance of plus from the mirror is this much. So in our mirror image also it should be this much only, and the distance of into from the mirror is this much. So in the final answer it should also it should be this much only. So the plus is this much, the into is this much. So if this is our final answer figure, the minus should stay at the top, the divide should stay over here. So our final answer figure should look something like this. Minus, divide, plus and into. So which of these answers looks like this? We can see that C has x over to the right, just like our answer figure, and plus to the left, and also minus is up and division is down. So option C is the correct answer. So now let us move on to question 27. So over here we can see that, say, let's look at this eye. So first this eye should be at the same distance from the mirror. So if this is our mirror image, then I should come over here. Then let us look at this line of n. Okay, this line of n is, let's call it 1, and let's call this line of n 2. So we know that 1 is at greater distance than 2. So here 1 should also be at a greater distance than 2. Then let's look over here. We can see that from 1 the tilting line is connected on the upper corner, and with 2 it is connected at the lower corner. So since that doesn't change, over here also we have to make sure that the upper corner to lower corner it is connected. So basically this is what the n will look like. So basically the n has flipped. Okay, so if you want to look at it closely, we can see that this is what our n will look like. So basically we have flipped this image. We have not rotated this image. Okay, if we just rotate this image, then it will look like an n again. No, we have flipped this image. So if this looked this way, then now it looks this way. Okay, and why have we done that? Because over here, let's say n mein this point should stay at the same distance. So this lower point should stay at the same distance from the mirror, and this upper point should also stay at the same distance from the mirror. So that's why the n becomes flipped like this. So our final answer should have a flipped n like this. So let's look over here. A also has a no. A does not have I, correct, and C has I farther, and B also has I farther, right? We have seen over here that I should be at the end, then before that comes n, right? So over here we can see that over here the n has been flipped like it should be in a mirror, but over here n is the same only. So that's why B is the correct answer, because n needs to be flipped, right? So we can even check the k over here. Since the k looks like this, so in the final answer the k should look like this. Alright, and now let's apply this to question number 26. Over here we can see that C looks like this. So now we have to flip C, right? So now C should look like this. First we can see that there is nothing on top, nothing on bottom. So we don't have to make sure that whatever is on top should stay on top, whatever is on bottom should stay on bottom, right? So now we only have to flip. So first of all, the whatever is closer to the mirror should stay closer to the mirror, right? So let us look at C closely. Yes. So C looks like this, and suppose this is the mirror. So now let us take this point, and this point. Let us call this point 1, this point 2, and this point 3. So we can see that 1 is at a farther distance than 2 and 3, right? 2 and 3 are if at 1 centimeter, then maybe one is at 2 centimeters something. So here also it should stay at the same distance. So here 1 should come over here, 2 should be nearer, so 2 should come over here, 3 should come over here. So that's why our C will look like this. Okay, so our final answer should have C looking like this. Also, since C is closer to the mirror than X, so that's why in the final answer also C should be closer to the mirror and X should be farther away from the mirror. And this dot should come in the middle, and over here we can see that this circle has lines in this direction. So the final answer, the mirror answer, should have in this direction. Why? Because let's for example take this point. Since this point is at this much direction and this point is at a greater direction, 1 and 2. So since 1 is at smaller direction than 2, so in the final answer also this 1 should be at a smaller direction than 2. So that's why the line gets flipped. You can remember left becomes right, right becomes left, right? So that's why our final answer should have C the farthest. So over here, should have C the nearest. So over here we can see in B, C and D, we have C at the nearest and we also have the correct C. Because the mirror image of C should look like this, right? Not like the original C, right? Then we have to see that this equal to sign should be there. Then we have to see that what is the next nearest thing. Since this circle is nearer to X, is nearer than X to the mirror, that's why in the answer also the circle should be nearer to the mirror. The circle should be nearer to the mirror than X. So we can see over here also circle is near, circle is near, circle is near. Then we have to see that in the circle also these lines got changed to these kind of lines, right? So over here we have these kind of lines, over here we have no lines, over here we have these kind of lines. So the correct answer is D, because we saw over here that these kind of lines should change into these kind of lines. Now let's move on to question number 29. Question number 29 says, in question numbers 29 to 32, a piece of paper is folded and punched as shown question figures on the left side, and 4 answer figures marked A, B, C and D are given on the right side. Select the answer figure which indicates how the paper will appear when opened, brackets unfolded. Indicate your answer by darkening the circle in the OMR answer sheet against the number corresponding to the question. Now in questions like these, what we do is, so basically in questions like this, we can see that there is a line over here and there is an arrow next to the line, right? So this line is called the folding line. This is the part of the paper that we have folded, and this arrow is showing the direction in which we are folding. Alright, so now first we folded in this direction, then we can see in the second figure that this also we have folded in this direction, right? And then finally we have gotten we had gotten this, and now again we have folded to make it a triangle. So finally we are getting this. And then what have we done? So over here you can see that we have punched a hole in it. So basically after this, what we have done, we have punched a hole in it in this design. So now if we punch a hole in the folded figure, then if you have played with folded figures and stuff, then you can see that whatever hole you punch in the folded figure appears on the entire paper, right, when you unfold it. So now the trick to solving such questions is, what you can do first is, you can check the last fold or the final fold. So here this is the last fold, right? This is first, second and third. So the third fold is the last fold. Now you can see whether this fold is there in your answer figure, because this fold should be there, right? So now over here, here, here and here. Over here we can see that it does have a similar fold with a similar design. Over here we can see it does not have similar fold. It should have something like this, but it doesn't have. So B is not our answer. Even C and D have no. D also does not have a triangle like this. Like A and C both have these kind of triangles. Now next what you can do is, along the folded line, we have to draw the mirror image of the folded figure. So basically over here we can draw the mirror image of the folded figure. So basically, since it along the folded line, taking the folded line as a mirror, right? So over here, let us take this, suppose. So now over here, we can see that we have triangle like this, right? Wait, there are only 4 triangles, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we have to take mirror image along this line, right? Because we can see here that this is the folding line. So we take mirror image along here. Okay. Then we check whether this kind of a figure, is there in any of the answer sheets. So in any of the answer figures. So over here we can see that A also has this kind of a figure, B does not have this kind of a figure, C has this kind of a figure, D also does not have this kind of a figure. So we are still at the same position that we were at when we saw the first one. Right now, again, what we have to do is over here we have drawn the mirror image along this line. Then let's look at the second image. Over here we can see that when we have unfolded, the paper should look something like this. Now again we had folded in the second stage at this line, right? So now treating this line as the mirror, again draw the mirror image. So now the mirror image will look like this, correct? So now let us look over here in A and in C. We can see that A has a mirror image which looks like this. Let's see over here 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, right? Whereas C does not have that kind of a mirror image over here, right? So that's why the correct answer is A. So whenever you're having figures like this, it is always useful to start from the last figure. So first let's look at the last figure. Make sure that the last figure is there in all of the answers. If it's not there in something, then that is not the answer. Then what you have to do, you have to see the folding line. You can draw the mirror image of the last figure in the folding line. Then if that also doesn't work, then again you have to take the last mirror image that you have drawn, that is this. You put it in the second fold, and then you take the second folding line, and then you again draw the mirror image of this alongside this, and then you check for it in the final answer. So now let's look at, to give you another example, let's look at this question. So over here also, first we have to check the last fold. So the last fold looks like this. Over here, does the last fold look like this? No. Over here, does the last fold look like this? No. Over here, does the last fold look like this? No. And over here, the last fold does look like this. Over here, why doesn't it look like this? Because there is another extra line over here. We can see over here, there is no extra line over here, right? But over here, in question number C, we can see that there is another extra line. So that's why C is not correct, D is our answer. So you can see that we didn't even have to unfold the entire thing. We just checked for the last fold and we saw that D was the correct answer. Now let's look over here. Here the last fold looks like this. So we have to check if all of these have the last fold in the same place. So over here also it has the last fold like this. Over here also the last fold is like this. Over here also it's like this. And but over here it is not like this. Over here there are not 2 dots over here. So that's why option D is not correct. Then after that, what did I say? We have to take the mirror image along the line we have folded. So first we have folded over here, right? So first take the mirror image along this line only then. So taking the mirror image, it looks like this. So let's see over here. So that means that our square should right now look like this. Correct? So over here, let's see, our square does not look like this, right? Because it doesn't have these 2 dots. Over here, it does look like this. Over here also, it does look like this. It does look like this. And over here too, we have already seen that D is not correct. So that means option A is not correct. So now we have to compare between B and C. So again what you do is, now this time we had taken this as a folding line, right? So along this folding line only, you have to draw its mirror image again. So right now our shape looks like this. 2, 3, 4. So now again draw the mirror image. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, right? Because in the mirror image, what is nearer should stay near, what is far should stay far, right? So basically now we should compare this part, the upper part of the figure now. The upper part of the figure, and see which of them have a design something like this. So something like this, right? So over here we can see that C does not have something like this, right? Because over C we have this, but we don't have like 4 dots over here. So that's why the correct answer is B. Now let us look at the 32nd one. Over here, let's look at the final fold again. So this is the last fold. It has a triangle and then a circle. So over here, is there a triangle and circle? No, there is circle and triangle. So A is not correct. Over here, there is no, B is also not correct because it doesn't look like this. Over here, there is a circle, then there is a triangle. So since you can see that in this figure, C is correct. And over here also in D also you cannot see the circle, the triangle and then the circle. So D is also not correct. So the correct answer is option number C. Now let's look at the 33rd question. In question numbers 33 to 36, a question figure is given on the left side and 4 answer figures marked A, B, C and D are given on the right side. Select the answer figure which can be formed from the cutout pieces given in the question figure. Darken the circle in the OMR answer sheet against the number corresponding to the question. So over here in the question figure we can see these shapes, correct? So we have to say which of these figures has a shape which is made only through these shapes, only through these 4 shapes. Okay, so let's look at A. Now A has this shape, right? But it doesn't have these shapes, right? Instead it has something like this. Instead it has something like this. Whereas we have something like this. But let's look at B. B does have this shape, right? B does have this shape, right? And then let's look at the above shape. It looks like this. B also has this shape. Let's look at this shape. B has the shape over here. And let's look at this shape. Again, B has the shape over here. Okay. So now let's, why can't it be C? Because C doesn't have that big shape only. And these two are also not like the triangles we have been given. We have been given proper right angle triangles. And these you can see no, we have been given triangles which look like this, and these have triangles which look like this, and D is also not correct. Now let's look at option number, so correct answer was B. Now let's look at question number 34. So question number 34 has 2 big right angle triangles and 2 rectangles. So our answer should also have 2 big triangles. Here we can see 2 big triangles, but the rectangles that do not look like this. Over here the rectangles are bigger, whereas here we have like smaller rectangles. Over here also we have the same small rectangles that we have over here, and we have 2 rectangles, right? 2 rectangle, 1 triangle and another triangle. So the correct answer is B. Now let's look at the 35th question. Here also we have 3 big rectangles and 2 smaller rectangles. So our answer should also have 3 big rectangles, like see B. Again B has 3 big rectangles, right? 1, 2 and 3, and 2 smaller rectangles, right? So the correct answer is B. Now let's look at this question. Question number 36 has a square, a triangle and something which looks like this. So our answer figure should also have a square, a triangle and something that looks like, very carefully see, something that looks like this. So B does not have something that looks like this, right? B has some weird shape that looks like this. C has a shape that looks like this. D has a shape that looks like our figure, right? That looks like this. And our figure and the figure we were given is the exact same as this, right? Basically we just have to rotate this figure and we can get our figure, correct? Over here the figure is like this and our figure is like this. So both of these are the same figures only, they've just been rotated. So that's why D is the correct answer, because D has this figure also, this figure also and this figure also. So now let's look at question number 37. In question numbers 37 to 40, a question figure is given on the left side and 4 answer figures marked A, B, C and D are given on the right side. Select the answer figure in which the question figure is hidden / embedded. Darken the circle in the OMR answer sheet against the number corresponding to the question. So here basically in the question figure we are given the shape and we have to check which of these figures have this shape hidden in them. So let's look at this shape. Do you see the shape over here? No, it doesn't, because why? because it doesn't have this extra line, right? It doesn't have this line. Now, even this one doesn't have this line. This one doesn't have the big line itself, right? And this one also doesn't have this line. But we can see over here, this one looks exactly like like the figure given in the question figure. So that's why D is the correct answer, because we can see that the question figure has been hidden in the shape in D, right? Now let's look at question number 38. Question number 38 has this kind of a figure. So we have to check which of A, B, C, D have this figure hidden in it. So we can't see this figure in A. We can't see this, we can see this figure in B. Yes, this is a figure, right? And we can't see this figure in C because it doesn't have the closing line, and we can't see the figure in D also, again because it doesn't have the closing line. So that's why the correct answer is B. Now let's look at this. This figure looks something like this. Now over here we do have a N, but these two lines are pointing outside, whereas if this was Rn, it should have pointed like this, right? Now over here, this N, we have this same N which is pointing in this direction. So we can see that this figure can be hidden in B, right? So that's why B is the correct answer. So now let's look at the 40th question. The 40th question has this acute angle. So we have to check which of A, B, C, D has this acute angle. So I can't find this acute angle over here. Over here also, this acute angle is there, but we don't have that curve over here. Here we can see that the acute angle is also there and the curve is also there. So that's why C is the correct answer. And in D again, we can see that it had something like this, but this was a straight line, not a curve. So that brings us to the end of the session. All the best, and all the best for your exam, and thank you.